Welcome to the Vetiver Vibes podcast. We're your hosts, Nikki Fraser, Rachel Dean, and Rhonda Greenberry, certified clinical aromatherapists, coming to you from Ontario, Canada, and on the internet everywhere. We're excited that you have given your time to be here with us, knowing you'll get the best essential oil scoop. This episode is brought to you by Essentria, a leading online school for aromatherapy. If you want to learn more about how to use aromatherapy with kids, check out the mini courses at www.schoolofessentria.com. Welcome to today's show. I'm Nikki Fraser, and today I get to interview Rachel Dean, not only a friend, but a co-host of Vetiver Vibes, all about how aromatherapy can help with the emotional roller coaster we can sometimes experience. Anxiety, depression, stress, and many other conditions can affect our energy and our mood, and aromatherapy is a great tool to help combat the roller coaster experience. Hey, Rachel, welcome to the show.
Hello, glad to be here.
This is actually how you started to use essential oils, isn't it? Can you kind of share your experience with your intro? I know you went over a little bit in your personal introduction, but let's dive a little bit deeper into how you used essential oils to help with your feelings and energy and all of that.
Oh, we get to talk about feelings. Woo-hoo!
Yes.
When I was first introduced to essential oils, I was very stressed out at work. I always like to do a lot in my life. As I've mentioned, I like to be very busy all the time, and I still do that. But at the time I was very burnt out, and it was a time of my life where my kids were young. There was more going on. I had like the daycare pickups and the kids at school and them figuring out their lives and me figuring out my life with work and everything. It was just a little bit too much at that particular moment in time for me. I wasn't quite ready to even acknowledge that though at the time, but I was introduced to the essential oils, and I think I mentioned before that I was invited to a mojitos and essential oil night.
Yes.
And I went for the mojitos and the girlfriends to go and see what that was going to be, because I just needed to get out of the house. My husband's always great, and he of course went and picked up the kids from the daycare, and I went, and as I said, I was just like in awe of the stories that these people were telling about their essential oils and their experience. And one of the oils that I was introduced to at that evening was orange, citruses, like things that I've always, loved. I like to eat an orange, but never thought of just smelling an orange. I think, as I said too, the other scents around me were always giving me headaches and stuff. And there was a girl at work who, she smoked. That didn't bother me as much as when she came back from smoking, she would cover herself in this really fake perfumey thing. And it was oranges, and it was gross. No other way to say it. So like, I always just started thinking that like all those scents were the gross things. So like the lavender that I mentioned, it was, those were the gross smells, the oranges. But going back to the basics, I realized like when you're actually smelling things that are right from the plant, that they made me feel so much better. So I felt calm. I felt invigorated. I had a lot more energy just by smelling this little bottle. So like, got a bottle, if you open up the cap, and I was smelling it, and that was enough to make me feel significantly better. Like I said, there's a lot going on with the kids and work and everything. I had medicated myself for that at the time, for anxiety and depression, was working through that with my doctor, and found that the oils really helped me just on the day-to-day in a way that the other stuff was also helping, but this was able to help me without having to increase my meds and stuff. So I really appreciated having those options there. I also found that I would get headaches constantly. And so the essential oils are able to help with that. And if you're not having a headache every day, you actually feel a lot better. Your mood is significantly improved.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was just like the insight a little bit into using them. Once I've kind of really dived deep into essential oils, then I was using them constantly. I always had them with me. I have them in like a little pouch in my purse and would use them just wherever I was.
So would you say that there's a certain type of oil that works better, such as like, would you say the citrus would be better than floral or the woodsy or the medicinal herb like eucalyptus, tea tree, rosemary? Like which group would you say would be the best for that mood management?
For me, I find that citrus oils for me are very uplifting and very much help me feel like energized and happy. And actually, that was why I named my company Happy Oils when I was running my aromatherapy and reflexology business. And the other oils that I tend to use too, so all of the woods grounding oils, so frankincense and cedarwood and sage, things like that, very grounding. Those I found very calming. So at the end of the day or when I was super stressed, I could smell those and like get from like feeling like up here, like at a, I don't know, 12 out of 10, like bring it back down to like just a happy, like medium 5. Like, you know, it's a nice place to just be on a day to day. So I found that just like smelling the oils were just enough, like bring that down, feel more regulated. Sometimes it's also just enough to remind you to breathe. So you open up a bottle and you're smelling something and you're like, oh, like I haven't been focusing on anything other than all of the things going on in my head. And just opening that bottle and smelling whatever, you know, it is that you picked up is enough to sometimes just stop things.
And it's true. We often do forget to pause and just be in the moment and breathe, because that in itself can have a huge effect. So really the woods, if you're feeling like you're not in the moment and need that grounding, the woodsy oils. And then if you're wanting a bit more of that pick me up, then the citrus oils is kind of what was working for you.
Those were my go-to. Yeah. A lot of people like a lot of the floral oils and stuff, and I do enjoy them sometimes, but they're not my go-to personally. And then the medicinal ones, I would say also not my go-to for emotions, but they do have their other purpose. And I'm sure we'll get into all of that, and they're great oils. That being said, I know I said like flowers aren't necessarily my thing, but like rose, I love rose. I've always had a very good expensive taste of things, and rose would be one of my favorites. It's actually great because you can use it like in a hydrosol, and it's a little bit cheaper than just, you know, put a spray in the air, and it can be enough to, same thing, just calm and
absolutely just spraying your pillow before bed just to kind of help bring it down. That's a great idea.
Yeah, exactly.
I love these, the hydrosol. So if you had to pick your top 3 oils, what would be your top 3 oils for mood management? I know it's a tough one.
My top 3 oils, orange for just like a simple like pick me up,
like a sweet orange.
Yeah, like a sweet orange, just like a basic like orange where, you know, if you don't have your oils with you, you can just get an actual orange and open that up. Frankincense, I do love that. I find that I use it a lot for meditation, and so that's very grounding and it brings me back to that place very quickly. And neroli. So neroli's that bit of, it's the flower, but it's also the citrus. So I find that one is a very serious happy oil for me. Also something that sometimes is a little bit more expensive, and you know, so I use it sparingly.
But picking up the 3% dilution is, I find, still works amazing. You don't need to get the pure.
That is true. That is, it is actually what I have too here. That is, that is a 3% that I have here.
I find the 3% works phenomenal, already pre-diluted. So that's great. Yeah. And so what would you say would be the best way to use the essential oils for mood management? Would you say applying them topically, aromatically? Are you diffusing? Are you making roller bottles, bombs?
All of the above in some version or another, for sure. I find that if I'm using essential oils for my mood, I find I'll wear a necklace, a diffuser necklace mostly. So this has like a little felt pad in it, and you just open it up, put a couple drops on it, and then you can smell it. So it has neroli in it right now that I put on just before the recording, and I just like get little wafts of it.
I love the diffuser jewelry. I have a couple of earrings, a couple pairs of earrings and necklaces too, and they're a great way just being on the go, and just you have it around you, and it's not overly powerful that you're going to invade other people's space with the aroma either.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. And generally if I'm going to use those, I will stick to scents that are very common, such as the citruses, things that people will just think that you're eating an orange and they'd be okay with. I know I keep going back to that, but really it's so simple. And so I use it a lot that way. Then I find that diffusing in the evening can be great. So definitely doing like some forest blends in the evening is a wonderful way to just relax while you're watching TV and starting to shut down. And the other ways I tend to use them, roller bottles for sure, but also for times when you can't use them in a place like publicly where there are other scents, would be using the
Personal inhalers.
personal inhalers. There you go. Yeah. I was looking for one just before we recorded, and I couldn't find one. That seemed to be all out at the moment, but yeah, personal inhaler, also great. Usually I would have one of those in my purse too, of my favorite blend at the time, and use that.
Yeah, I love personal inhalers. And yeah, I usually have some around me also. And I think I walked away with mine. They're just so nice, tiny, compact. And again, great for on the go. And no one else needs to be smelling the aroma. So it's just really for you and your own needs. And it forces you again, as you said earlier, to just stop and breathe and be mindful in that moment. So combining the two together, that's awesome.
Exactly. One of the other stories I was thinking of was my oldest has a bit of anxiety, and years ago we were out in a public setting and there was just a lot of people around. This was like pre-COVID and all that stuff, when people were generally used to being around a lot of people. I realized that they had gotten one of my roller bottles out of my purse and were just rolling their arms with it just over and over. And obviously my roller bottles are diluted, and I always have them diluted for my children as well, to make sure that if they did that, they could just grab them. And just rolling for like a good 20 minutes. And when the event finished, the roller bottle was empty and they smelled very much like the roller bottle, which was a happy blend that I had made full of citruses and stuff. And I just thought it was so great because that was how they used them to calm themselves when they were feeling a little bit out of sorts in this event. So,
Well, and I see that as they're using the aroma. So aromatically, they're getting the therapeutic benefits of the oils. They're getting the sensory of touch. So really, what they were doing is they were giving themselves a massage on their arms with the
exactly,
roller bottle,
for sure.
which I mean is a great way to help with mood management also. And just, they were self-soothing themselves with it clearly, which that is awesome that they were able to do that on their own and continue doing that. And that was their way to, sit through that 20 minutes of overstimulation, I would assume.
Definitely overstimulation, yes.
Which is a huge thing with mood. When we're overstimulated, it's so hard to come back down. And I find a lot of people that I know personally, a lot of clients, when they get overstimulated, they just get cranky and frustrated and they don't know how to express themselves anymore. And they just tap out and they either completely turn inwards or they lash out. So I think
Definitely
that's
a bit of
great
both
that they were able
happens
to
in
do
my
that.
household. I have teenagers now. So yes.
So any parting words of wisdom that you would like to say to our listeners before we end about aromatherapy, mood management specifically?
I find that when I'm using the essential oils for mood specifically, and when I'm working with clients and friends and family for this purpose, don't assume you know what is going to be a good oil for them. Bring out a bunch of different options and see what they are pulled towards. So when you're doing blending for mood, I find that everybody's going to have their own preference. So like I like the citruses and I like the forest blends and the woods and all that kind of stuff, but for very different reasons. Other people might like a little spice, that might be something that is a very happy scent to them. Maybe it reminds them of their grandmother baking an apple pie or something, and it's got a little bit of cinnamon in it or something. Just give them lots of options and see what they like. And then you can make blends based on that, pull those together. So even just grabbing like a couple of oils when you're making blends, you can kind of get a basic idea of like just putting them under your nose together. It'll smell totally different later when you're actually blending it. But it gives you like that starting point that your clients can be like, oh, I do like those together. I don't like those together. And there are people who will smell something that generally everybody loves, and they're like a hard no. And you don't know what it is, but it has just triggered some memory for them. And memories and scents and emotions are so strongly tied together that when you're blending for somebody, if you can work with them in person, that's great. That'd be my number one like parting gift, is just figuring out with them and helping them find that solution, and then tweaking it as you go. So, maybe they're like, oh, I really like that in it, but maybe we can try something else next time. And maybe I can have a blend for meditation, but then I can have a blend for a pick-me-up and that kind of things. Just be aware that there's lots of different options out there, and that just because something works for you does not mean that emotionally it will work for somebody else.
I think that's a great tip. Like you said, we are all different, unique. So what's going to work for one person isn't going to work for someone else. And going with what you're drawn to. If you don't like the aroma, you're probably not going to use it. And then you're just going to waste it, which nobody wants to have that happen. So picking
especially if it has rose in it.
Right? Even neroli, or even any of them, really, right?
I know.
We don't want to be wasting, we don't want to be wasting any of our oils. They're so beneficial that, let's use what we make. And especially if you're buying it from someone else, even more so, see what you're drawn to. I think that's a great tip and trick.
Do you use essential oils for any mood things? Well, we've got you here, Nikki. I'm going to turn the table on you.
Oh, I do. Trying to think of what my favorites are. I'm a woodsy girl. Give me vetiver. And I know you don't like vetiver. Oh, vetiver is it's like my miracle drug. Honestly, it helps me when I can't sleep. It helps me when I'm frustrated. It helps me when I'm anxious. It helps me when I'm stressed. Like if I had one oil in my life, vetiver, 100%. And most people hate it. So this goes back to what works for one, what works for others.
I don't hate it. Obviously, if I hated it, I would not be hosting Vetiver Vibes.
Yes.
Like, to be fair, if I had a hate for it, I'd like it a lot, actually. But it just makes me so sleepy. I can't function with it. So if I really want to go to sleep, really getting Vetiver out is perfect for me. However, generally I like to function and it just knocks me out cold. And I don't actually have a problem sleeping. So therefore it's not something I'm looking for in a sleep blend, because I don't need a sleep blend.
But I have a lot of clients who they want nothing to do with vetiver. I'll pull it out for them and they're like, no, it's too strong for them. So then I typically pull out the cedarwood, and they love the cedarwood if they're looking for more grounding oils. But to me, vetiver, again, like you said, sweet orange. I absolutely love sweet orange. And actually, I would say within the last year, geranium. And I think part of that is just being postpartum. Geranium was never my favorite. I avoided it like patchouli, like the plague.
Oh, see, I like patchouli.
No, I avoid patchouli, and I used to avoid geranium.
I like patchouli.
Oh, can't do it. However, since being pregnant, my last pregnancy, and he is almost 9 months at this point. So I think it's really just the hormone balancing aspect that I'm craving, which is helping with any kind of stress that I'm going through. So geranium lately, which I'm still wrapping my head around liking right now, but I am. So I think really the vetiver, sweet orange, and geranium are my go-tos right now, especially because I don't like a whole lot of florals either. So, but those at this moment in time are what my go-tos are. If you had to ask me 3 years ago, I would have probably said vetiver, sweet orange, and probably I love black pepper. I also love eucalyptus. I don't go for the typical oils.
I'm like, I wouldn't think of either of those oils for emotions, but that's what I was saying, is that, don't eliminate them because they're both great oils. I typically
And
would use black pepper for pain or something, but
yeah, and
emotions,
that's
sure.
where like my olfactory just goes in like this weird space when it comes to emotion. And honestly, I'll just pick up my bottles and intuitively I kind of go around. I'll either grab my pendulum or just muscle testing, or I'll just randomly pick 5 bottles and just smell and go with those. I love doing that also when I'm in just a stress, anxiety, even a funk, something like that. And even just pulling out the intuitive cards and seeing what the universe and energetically is speaking to me. So, you
Speaking
actually
of,
have them.
I actually
But
have them.
mine are not close
And
by. So I love
since
that you
we're
have
here for
them.
fun, and this is also a video that people can watch. So
Yeah, so if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to be seeing this. If you're listening to this on the podcast, we will explain which cards we are picking.
yes, these are specifically, they are the Aromatherapy Insight cards for Intuitive Aromatherapy by Jennifer Jeffries, who we love.
Yes.
So,
And they're
all right,
illustrated by
Nikki, I'm
Karen
going to point. Tell
Osborne.
me when to stop. We'll pick a card for you.
Stop.
Okay, your card is fennel. See, this would not be a normal
Fennel. Ooh, I don't use fennel a lot. I'm intrigued.
fennel. So look at this gorgeous, gorgeous, beautiful card.
Oh, see, but yeah, she's
beautiful. So I'm going to just open up and see what kind of emotion are you going through right now that fennel might help. All right, fennel. Assertive. Metaphysical benefits. Fennel is lively and dynamic oil that removes feelings of being overwhelmed, bored, and afraid of failure. It leaves you enlivened and able to regain the competitive edge. Step up to the task. Do not procrastinate and enjoy the feelings of completing your goals. Communicate freely and with confidence. Stay ahead of the game of life and go for it. Move beyond stagnant thoughts that hold you back. It's time to take your place in the world. That sounds very much like a conversation we were having just before this podcast.
I was gonna say,
maybe it's my oil too.
that is spot on right now for me. I'm not going to go into detail here, but I love that. And that definitely resonated with me. Too. So yeah, so I mean, and this is where, this is when we actually do a couple, we use a couple decks in our Facebook group where typically once a week I'll do personal card pulls or pulls for the community, and I absolutely love doing it. And for mood management, again, it's just a great way to get out of your head and just let the universe decide for us.
I do love the card pulls because sometimes, especially if you're someone who uses essential oils a lot and has a full arsenal of essential oils at your fingertips, you always go back to the same ones, like just because they're your go-tos. But when you have something like that, it just reminds you to try something else and fall in love with other oils. So definitely something so simple as that can make a big difference.
Yeah, because I would have never thought of reaching for fennel, but I am, soon as we are done this, I'm going to go out and reach for my fennel and have a nice big 3 deep breaths and get some fennel properties. So I think that's a great place to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Rachel, for allowing me to interview you and diving deep into mood management, emotions, aromatherapy. And thank you for tuning in to Vetiver Vibes, the Essential Oil Scoop. I'm Nikki Fraser here with Rachel Dean, and we are looking forward to you tuning in for our next episode. Bye.
Bye.
This episode was brought to you by Essentria, a leading online aromatherapy school. You can join their free introductory to essential oil course at www.schoolofessentria.com. If you love this episode or you got a lot of value out of it, please make sure you share it with someone in your community who you think would enjoy it too. If you haven't already subscribed or reviewed the show yet, you can go on over to your preferred streaming platform and hit subscribe, then leave a review. This is the best way to help support us, and we appreciate it. Email us with a screenshot of the review, and you will be entered into our monthly draw for a free mini course. This podcast is for information purpose only. We are certified clinical aromatherapists and holistic health professionals. If you have a medical concern, please refer to your health team. Everyone's health is unique to themselves, so the topics and suggestions stated may or may not apply to you.